Although I was never someone who thought I would move to another country, that's what I decided would be the best for myself and my 12-year-old child. And here we are. Here we are.
She's gone, man. Trump completely broke her. Rosie O'Donnell has officially self-deported, all as voter ID comes to California. As more and more woke Hollywood celebrities self-deport, it looks like sanity is actually starting to return to the Golden State. Amazing stuff here, gang. Come on in, one and all. It is I, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to celebrate the dawn of the new golden age that you made possible back on November the 5th. So if you want a front row seat on everything happening with the rise of a new civilizationalist world, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Let's start with what's going on in California.
A lot of people have issues with our election system.
Republican Assemblymember Bill Asaley says these issues have sparked a new initiative to try and get a measure on the ballot for the 2026 election.
We launched our coalition, which is going to be working on a voter ballot initiative to require that voter ID be implemented in the state of California.
Asaley echoes President Donald Trump's request. He's been critical of the state's voting protocols and procedures.
In California, we want them to have voter ID so the people have a voice, because right now the people don't have a voice because you don't know who's voting, and it's very corrupt.
According to the Secretary of State, in most cases, people do not need to show identification at polling places before casting a vote. Asaley says this has led to mistrust around election validity.
Some people who've been charged for submitting fraudulent ballots or registering people who aren't qualified. The DMV also reported that it accidentally registered illegal immigrants to vote when they weren't supposed to be able to vote.
So what we're seeing here is a massive coalition forming called Californians for Voter ID, and they've just announced that they're going to be pushing a ballot initiative for the 2026 election that would require voter ID for all voters for all subsequent elections. The initiative would actually amend the California state constitution by restoring election integrity by requiring three things. First, verification of voter ID for all future elections. Second, proper review of citizenship and eligibility when individuals initially register to vote for the first time. And third, accurate maintenance of voter rolls going forward to remove people who die and who move out of the state. Now, this is huge because voter ID is actually very popular in California. A recent Public Opinion Strategies poll found that 68% of California voters support voter ID, including 52% of Democrats. Let that hit you. A majority of Democrats support voter ID, 70% of independents, 93% of Republicans. Again, voter ID in even the bluest of blue states is pre-political. Voter ID is largely a pre-political issue, meaning your partisan affiliation is not determinative of where you stand on voter ID. It's an issue supported by a supermajority of voters all across parties. And so the Democrats are caught in the losing position of trying to politicize a pre-political issue, right? They're trying to partisanize an issue that transcends partisanship, which means they're going to lose every single time, just like Proposition 36. Do you remember that from back in November? So California's Proposition 36, if you recall, it restored very tough, very harsh penalties for criminals, particularly those involving drugs, theft, and the like. Kamala refused to answer. This is an example of how they tried to, in effect, politicize the pre-political. She refused to answer how she voted on that proposition. She was asked, "How did you vote on Proposition 36?" And she like she normally did, she crumbled under the questioning. I mean, this is something that absolutely plagued that joke of a campaign, $2 billion campaign, and she couldn't take a stand on anything other than abortion and LGBT stuff. But that proposition that mandated very stiff penalties for criminals, I mean, it completely reversed the Soros-backed, urban DA trend of being lax with criminals. That proposition, gang, passed with 70% of the vote. 70% again in California. And support obviously cut across the grain of partisan allegiances. More than half of Kamala Harris's voters actually backed the proposition, tougher crime measures and the like. So, and in addition, we've got to remember Trump actually won 40% of the vote in California, and he ended up flipping a number of counties. Trump flipped San Bernardino County, flipped Orange County, flipped Fresno. Literally half dozen, I should say, counties that were all blue in 2020, they all went red. No county in California flipped the other way. No county flipped from red to blue, not one. So make no mistake, this is going to happen. Voter ID is going to happen. And I frankly don't know why Californians didn't come up with this proposition earlier, but it looks like voter ID is finally coming to California. It's way too popular for it not to, which I think in many ways is the beginning. It's the very crucial first step in restoring the state and flipping it red. It's going to be huge, and we're going to keep a very close eye on how things develop here in the coming months. So if voter ID is coming into California, what do you know? More and more Hollywood liberals are going out from California, not just from the state, but from the country as a whole. Wait until you see this. Gang, now that Fauci has been pardoned, RFK is obviously going to unearth what most of us already knew about the pandemic. It's so sad that this effort won't help the tens of millions who've never felt the same after getting the virus or the mRNA shots. We all know someone with a personal story, right? Pfizer even they're forced to release a detailed list of the side effects associated with its COVID-19 shots. And a common concern among those side effects is what's called long COVID syndrome. It's a condition that leaves people feeling brain fog, chronic fatigue, shortness of breath, lingering for months, in some cases, unfortunately, for years. Well, the good news is that the wellness company is here to help with their new long COVID syndrome support. You get 4 doctor-formulated nutraceuticals with 5 to 8 plants and minerals in each bottle, designed to address the root causes. So you've got Ultimate Spike Detox, you got Mind Lift, you got Elevated Energy, you've got Healthy Heart. Dr. Mercola recommends a durable recovery through holistic health, with COVID syndrome support being really an essential part of that. Right now, you could save $40 on the bundle and get an additional $34 off plus free shipping. Just click on the link below or head on over to twc.health/Turley and use code Turley to take action today for a healthier tomorrow. That's twc.health/Turley.
As a function of the great policies of President Trump and his administration, and as an act of faith in America, Tesla is going to double vehicle output in the United States within the next 2 years.
That's a big deal. That's great. Thank you.
That's Elon Musk making the announcement at the White House that Tesla manufacturing will double their output over the next 2 years as an act of faith in the golden age of Trump's America. It's absolutely wonderful. But all this winning appears to be too much for the ultra-woke liberal hive mind. Rosie O'Donnell, as you saw at the beginning, is yet the latest Hollywood celebrity to officially self-deport. She is now reportedly taking up residence in the nation of Ireland. My apologies to my Irish friends. This, of course, is to be expected. Ever since November 5th, her TikTok video messages have become increasingly unhinged. They've become bizarre. I got to say, frankly, they've been difficult to watch. I mean, I don't normally watch them, but as part of watching them so you don't have to. I mean, this is a meltdown that's really been going on for years now, going all the way back to 2007, when she had that much publicized on-air spat with her co-host Elizabeth Hasselbeck on The View. To remember that. That was really the beginning of the end for her. That on-air spat was basically the beginning of the end of Rosie's career. She just descended into just this prolonged madness, this unfolding multi-year emotional and mental breakdown. She ended up departing from The View a few years after that. She struggled to maintain the same level of mainstream popularity with her subsequent television ventures drying up. Her far left and increasingly extremist political rants ended up offending and driving away whatever was left of her fan base. But nothing, I think, prepared anyone for how infected she would eventually get with TDS, right, with Trump derangement syndrome. And now she's basically in a self-imposed exile from the country as a whole. It's so interesting because if you remember, we talked a lot on this channel over the past year about what do we do if Kamala wins. I mean, we always knew she was never ahead in the polling. We knew that, right? All that polling that told us Kamala was going to win in a landslide, right? We knew it was riddled with response bias, like the Ann Seltzer fraud the weekend before the election that claimed Kamala was going to win Iowa, a state where every single one of its counties, if I recall, all 99 of its counties, increased Republican voter registration over the Democrats. And voter registration trends are the single most accurate predictor of election outcomes. Ann Seltzer had the gall to publish a poll that showed Kamala would win there, even though more Republicans than ever were in Iowa. But regardless, even when we were calling out all those fraud polls, there was always a concern that they would somehow get away with rigging the election. So we talked about, okay, well, what do we do if Kamala, quote unquote, won? And one argument I gave is that we basically needed to, what I called Quebec-ize red states. We needed to double down on red states and erect legal and administrative walls between us and the rotting corpse of D.C. and the degenerating blue states, like DeSantis did during the Biden years in Florida, appointing his own surgeon, things like that. So we had to figure out all kinds of ways that we could just distance ourselves and ignore D.C. and flourish as a culture of faith, family, and freedom within our nation. We never considered, where do we go? Where do we move to? What country do we go? Oh, well, unless we were talking about Texas. But in that sense, that's actually, taking a part of the country with us. But we never discussed self-exile. We never discussed anything like self-deportation. And it's because we love our country too much. This is our nation. We're loyal to it. And to me, it's just stunning that all of these woke leftists, even though they're situated, ironically, in the bluest of blue states in California, when the going gets rough, when the times get tough, what do? They bail. They abandon. They take off. They forsake their country and they leave. Again, even though they're getting everything they want at a state level in their own woke state. It's astonishing, and I think it shows that in the end, they don't care. They don't give one whit about our country. They only care about themselves. They're the most narcissistic, pathological people on the planet who have no loyalty to anything other than themselves. So all of this is to say that we, of course, we're not cruel. We wish Rosie and Ellen DeGeneres and all these other woke Hollywood icons, at least of one time, we wish them all the best. But I think they can all be assured that they will not be missed. By the way, click on the link in the description below to get all these articles and tweets I reference throughout my videos emailed to you each and every day. You're going to love it. We want you to have the best resources out there to convince your family and your friends of this new MAGA super age that's rising here.